This is the North Africa Journal, and thank you for downloading this podcast. For more podcast information and user rules, please visit north-africa.com/podcast.
Some analysis now. Let's go to Bruno. He joins us from Toronto. He's the deputy editor of the North Africa Journal. Good to see you, Alessandro.
Good afternoon.
Thanks for joining us. There are two major protests, you're likely aware, that are being planned in Egypt tomorrow. One is pro-government, we understand, the other anti-government. And the U.S. State Department has just issued a warning, essentially saying these protests on Friday may be larger, could be more violent than the ones we've seen so far. If that's the case, how will the Egyptian government respond tomorrow?
Well, hopefully the response will be for Mubarak to leave before these protests take place, because, of course, on Friday, the prayer day in the Muslim world, tensions are always higher. The imams in the mosques can deliver sermons to incite the crowds, and you can imagine that tomorrow the sermons will be so. I'm still hoping that Mubarak will come to his senses and leave. That's really the problem now. Who's going to be in charge? And the army is probably looking for a viable and honorable way out for Mubarak right now.
There was that apology from Egypt's new prime minister that came today. I'm wondering what your assessment of why that apology was made. What's the goal there? Is it really to show support for the people who are protesting, or is there another motive there?
Well, I think it's a compromising measure. Obviously, whoever is left will have to deal with the crowds and will have to deal with people who support Mubarak. We've talked a lot about the protesters over the past week and a half, but I think there's a very strong silent majority or silent group that supports Mubarak. After all, the Egyptian government is the main employer in Egypt. At least 6 million people work for the government. That you can translate that to 30 million people when you count their families. So there's a lot of people that have a lot to lose by Mubarak falling. At the same time, the level of protest has reached such a point where no one can remain, nothing can be the same as it was before.
So Mubarak so far not offering any indication that he is ready to step down any earlier than he indicated, right? So you touched on it, but what are we really dealing with here? This is really a battle on the streets for Mubarak's own legacy, isn't it? The people want him out. They want to show he is a failure. He, though, wants to be and remain a national hero.
That's right. So I think the army is looking for that compromise solution. One possible route, and because Mubarak's health has been ailing in the past year and he was already in Germany for treatment, I think one of the solutions might be to send him off for further medical treatment, and then the power can be handed over to one of the generals, perhaps Suleiman, who's the vice president, or perhaps I think the one person waiting in the wings that could be something of a compromise between the protesters and the Mubarak supporters is the chief of the army, the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Annan. He was in Washington until last Friday. He's the dark horse, I think, to watch that could be the binding agent.
Well, you offer up one suggestion. I wonder if that will transpire. If not, if these protests continue day after day, one side clashing with the other, I mean, where does this lead us? To a civil war?
Yes, I'm trying to avoid saying it because a civil war in Egypt is quite a large thing. You think back to Iraq after Saddam, after the fall of Saddam. The whole Ba'ath apparatus was destroyed, and many of the Ba'ath leadership went underground with the security apparatus leading attacks against the new government and anything that was proposed to replace the Ba'athist party. You can imagine that multiplied tenfold in Egypt, since the country is much larger than Iraq was. So there's a lot of people that have a lot to lose by Mubarak going down, and at this point there's have a lot to gain by him leaving.
Yeah, the pressure continues to mount. We will watch it. Bruno with the North Africa Journal joining us. Good to see you.
Thank you.
This was the North Africa Journal podcast. Thank you for listening.